All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to trace the absolutely wild journey of language itself. We're talking from a time when it was seen as a sacred gift from the gods to an idea that it's actually an act of violence, and then, somehow, to its rebirth as digital code. It's a huge story about meaning itself.
So let's just jump right in with this line. Ancestral spirits live in science cryptocurrency. I mean, that sounds completely impossible, right? How can ancient spirituality and cutting-edge tech even be in the same thought? Well, this whole explainer is about showing you how we got to a place where a sentence like that can actually start to make sense.
To really get a handle on our kind of chaotic present, we have to go way, way back. We're starting in a time when the written word wasn't just a tool for communication. It was seen as a divine revelation.
You know, for the ancient Egyptians, this was no joke. They believed the god Thoth literally created writing and handed it down to humans. And you can see that belief baked right into the name the Greeks gave their script, hieroglyph. It breaks down to hieros, meaning sacred, and glyphein, to engrave. So, sacred engravings, or, put simply, the writing of the gods.
And what's just mind-blowing is the stability of this system. We're talking over 3,000 years. Empires rose and fell, entire civilizations disappeared, but the core of the sacred script, it held strong. Sure, it grew and became more complex, going from about 700 signs to several thousand, but it never broke. It was a constant in a changing world.
And this is what's so powerful. It wasn't just for religious stuff. This was a complete technology for describing reality itself. It could capture everything from super practical farming tips and medical notes to deep philosophical concepts and epic stories. It was a tool for ordering the entire universe.
Okay, now let's completely flip the script. We've just seen writing as this amazing, divine gift. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the very act of naming something, of writing it down, isn't a gift but an act of violence?
So this is a heavy philosophical idea, but stick with me. The argument is that reality in its purest form is this seamless, connected whole. The moment we point and give something a name, like tree, cloud, or even me, we perform what's called an original violence. We're essentially tearing that thing out of the fabric of reality, separating it from everything else. And in that act, we lose a bit of that connection to the whole.
And this idea kind of unfolds in 3 stages. First, you have that original act of naming that chops up the world. Second, society comes along and creates morals and laws, a kind of reparative violence, to manage and sometimes hide those divisions we just made. And third, you get empirical violence, things like war, which just brutally rips off the Band-Aid and exposes all the divisions we tried to smooth over. So what does that really mean for us? It means the second we get classified, the second we get an identity, we're already one step removed from our true nature. That identity becomes an abstraction, just a label, not the messy, complex, connected reality of who we are before a name gets slapped on us.
So what happens when this whole process of naming, classifying, and dividing gets put on steroids? Well, you get the modern world. It's like a constant storm of fragments, categories, and labels flying at us from every direction. The result, a state of just nonstop chaos. When absolutely everything is named, categorized, and pulled apart, the bigger picture just dissolves. It gets really hard to find clear meaning. All you're left with is what this Portuguese phrase on the screen says, confusão, confusão, confusion and more confusion.
And get this, even the digital systems we build to try and connect all these fragments are themselves incredibly fragile. Our networks, our data, our very digital identities can be, as the source material so beautifully puts it, politely obliterated in the blink of an eye. It just adds another layer of chaos to our lives.
And this fragmentation isn't just an abstract idea. It has a deeply human cost. This line here is absolutely haunting. It translates to, I lost my daughter. I don't know which box she is in. It perfectly captures that feeling of profound loss in a world where everything and everyone gets sorted into boxes, leaving us feeling totally disoriented. And you see this play out on a massive global scale too. The lines we draw to define ourselves, our nations, our cultures, they become battlegrounds. Borders are fought over, and identities feel like they're under threat or being stolen, as those divisions we created with words erupt into very real violence. But, and this is a huge but, this isn't just a story about everything falling apart. Out of all this fragmentation, something totally new and unexpected is starting to emerge, a really powerful mashup of the deeply ancient and the radically futuristic. This slide just nails that idea perfectly. On one side, under tradition, tradition, you've got the atabaque, a sacred ceremonial drum. On the other side, modernidade, modernity, you have the synthesizer. The point is, they're not fighting each other. They're coming together, creating something new.
And this is where it gets really wild. We're seeing ancient concepts get a total reboot. Spiritual energy, something called ashe, doesn't need a temple anymore. It can travel through electronic paths. A sense of presence can be felt in digital waves, and reality itself is being reimagined and released through everything called the blockchain.
So what this is all suggesting is that we're seeing the rise of new kinds of identities that just don't fit into those old violent boxes. People who exist in the spaces between, who are, as the quote says, before the name, after the form. They are the uncategorized.
And that brings us full circle. That idea from the very beginning that sounded so crazy, that ancestral spirits can live in science and cryptocurrency, suddenly starts to click into place. It's not just some poetic line anymore. It's describing an emerging world where the oldest parts of our humanity are finding a new home in our newest technologies.
So, as our whole idea of language and reality expands, from sacred carvings on a stone tablet to invisible protocols on the blockchain, it leaves us with one final and pretty haunting question for our fragmented, hyper-connected world. In this new reality we're all building together, what does it even mean to be real anymore?